I'm Idle King, and today we're going to try something just a little bit different. I love to bake, and one of the results of that is I have a couple of baking books that I tend to revisit or try recipes out of when I'm trying want to try something a little different. And there's a recipe in one of my favorites that I've been wanting to try, and I thought I would take y'all along for the ride for that. The book in question is Cookies, the New Classics by Jesse Shevchik, and the recipe is strawberry shortbread cookies with a creme fraiche glaze. Like, that's the recipe. That's hopefully what they're going to look like when they're done. I've been really curious to try this. To get started, I have already preheated the oven to 325 degrees. And it calls for a 9-inch tart pan with a removable bottom. I do not have one of those. I do have a 9-inch cake pan, so we're just going to have to give it our best. It also calls to spray the inside with some nonstick spray. So there we go. Let's set that aside for later. Since I'm 6 feet tall, we're going to do the baking at this angle so you can actually see me put the ingredients in the bowl. So, yeah, this is going to be a fun thing to have to figure out. So in our stand mixer, this is Rose, we're going to combine the softened butter, sometimes we need a little help, two tablespoons of jam, strawberry is why I am so excited to try this recipe. 2/3 cups of confectioner's sugar or powdered sugar. And 1 teaspoon of vanilla. We're going to mix these ingredients on medium speed until they are smooth and fluffy. And next, we're going to add 2 cups of flour that's spooned and leveled. So there's 1. I'm actually going to set this aside for partway through mixing that in. because I don't want it to be too thick of a mixture. I also don't want to get flour up in my face. Set that aside. We need 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. And we need 1 teaspoon of salt. And once again, we're going to mix this together until, and this will be mixed on a low speed until a soft dough forms. And that is definitely a dough. So next is to press the dough into an even layer into our pan. Next step is to sprinkle a teaspoon of granulated sugar over the top and then prick it in several places with a fork. And then next is to bake for 40 to 45 minutes until the top is deeply and evenly browned. Real quick, while the shortbread is baking, I have another Monbu emotional support weather station box. And like I've said before, I like the looks of all of them, but the one that I think would be really cool if this was is Timeless Dawn. Little angel looking one. So let's see what's in here. What we got? It's got all the curly hair. Ah, he's so cute. He is the Contraflow Whirl, so little tornado dude. Look at him. He's got swirls in his eyes. And he's got really curly hair and a bandana. And he's got an itty bitty car caught in his hair. Alright, so I had to pull it out just a little early because that is looking pretty done to me. Look at that, nice and even and brown on top. So next is to just let that cool. Alright, so because they want us to remove it from the pan and cut it into slices, we're going to try this and I already know I broke it, but apparently it was breaking already. Which is okay, because gotta slice it up anyway. That needs to cool for another hour. For at least another hour, which is fine by me because I have other things I need to do. Alright, next up we have the Creme Fraiche Glaze that goes on top of this. This has been cooling for about an hour while I ate dinner and cleaned up and all that. That's like the minimum amount of time that this part needs to cool. I will say, while this is a recipe for a creme fraiche glaze, neither grocery store that I went to over the past like month of thinking about this and trying to like source where I could find that happened to have it in stock. Kroger's app claims they have it. Have not spotted it at all anytime that I've checked in that location that the app claims it's in, which is the same thing that happened with the strawberries, but I did manage to find them on an end cap, so that one worked out. The recipe has a note, and we're going to use that note, where instead of using creme fraiche, if you can't find it, to use sour cream. It calls for 1/3 of a cup. The catch with the note is if you're substituting either sour cream or Greek yogurt for the creme fraiche, that you may need to add more confectioner's sugar. But that'll go in here. Like I said, sometimes you need a little help. Okay. And it calls for 1 1/4 cup of confectioner's sugar. Like I said, this might be adjusted depending on how the consistency is looking. Don't think we'll need that one again. Also calls for a teaspoon of vanilla. And I should not have left that in there, because I need to whisk all of this together. That was just me adding a little bit more confectioner's sugar because the recipe says that it needs to be thick but easily spreadable. And while, yeah, this would probably be easily spread, it's not very thick yet. I'll get some of that sour cream off of there. So it might be closer to 1.5 cups if you're using sour cream instead. The note said to use full fat sour cream or full fat plain Greek yogurt as a substitute. think that's starting to get where we want it to be. I say roughly half a cup because that's like the third partial quarter that I've done, and I don't even think any of them were half of a quarter. So I think that might do it. So from here, we'll get a spoon at the ready, but from here we're going to pour the glaze over our shortbread cookie and then use the back of a spoon to level it out. Issues for future me in that I forgot to turn the light on, so that footage will not have the same lighting as the others. But anyway, so we have put the glaze on here. Got a little bit left, so I'm just gonna drizzle that on there. And then the last thing before it needs to set, I'm going to take some of these freeze-dried strawberries that I got from Kroger, and we're going to pinch them, or not. I guess they're not quite that pinchable. But we're going to sprinkle them on top. Kind of feels like a sweet version of putting pepperoni on a pizza. This is an optional ingredient. I just like the picture so much that I was like, we're gonna give it a shot. I think that ought to do it. Alright, so that needs to set for an hour before I can do anything with it. But I will see y'all in an hour. Alright, so it is ready to dig into. I've already gone ahead and pulled a slice for me. Look at that. There was an instruction to separate the slices slightly from each other, which I attempted to do, but due to what I put them on, that was not happening. But let's find out how this tastes. It smells like strawberries. It might be because of the freeze-dried strawberries, but it could be because of the strawberry that's in there too. The glaze is very sweet, which it needs to be because there's no sugar in. Well, there is some sugar in the shortbread because of the jam, and there's that little bit of vanilla in there, but I think if I were to do this again, I would just cut out the freeze-dried strawberries because I think they're chewier than I would have liked them to be. Oh no, I think this is a good first attempt at this specific recipe. A good first attempt at filming myself while baking. We'll find out in the editing process. But yeah, thank you for riding along on this little experiment. I don't foresee these being a regular, like, monthly video like I'm doing with the lists, but I do see this as a thing that I do every now and then. Be sure to like and subscribe and keep an eye out for the next Idols Library video. And yeah, thanks for watching.